Test, 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 test. Can we get a test, please? Can we schedule a test? Can we get a test scheduled for this stream? Looks like we're live. Okay, welcome everyone. Right, today's stream is going to be a bit of coding. There's going to be a bit of building, a bit of compiling, a bit of documentation. There's going to be a bit of crying and anger. This is a bug-free stream. That means we're pretty much not gonna encounter any bugs. We're not gonna introduce any bugs, and we're certainly not gonna fix any bugs. Sounds good from Ireland. Thank you, Mihai, for the confirmation there. Right, okay, so the first thing on the agenda, what are we going to do? I'm going to add some Bloblang stuff. I've had two different people recently ask me about CSV parsing in Bloblang, and on both occasions it was a little bit awkward. So I don't have just a generic CSV. So it's CSV formatting that is the main complication. We have a CSV. Show you the documentation actually. We've got a CSV parser, which is easy mode. Where is it? Parse CSV. So this is pretty much easy mode because obviously if you've got a blob of CSV, then that means you've got all the rows embodied in that thing. So in the example I've got here is you can see we've got new lines in the data. So we've got multiple rows, and we assume here that you've always got a header row, otherwise you just do a split by line and then a split by comma in it. So yeah, it's fairly easy to do a parser for CSV, but formatting is a bit more awkward because it depends quite heavily on what somebody is actually converting. So I'll tell you what, we can showcase one of the new features. So one of the new features in Benthos is, hang on, make sure I've got the latest version of Benthos installed. One of the cool new features is the Blobble server subcommand, which gives you a little editor environment. Localized 4195. So say we've got I don't know, some document like we've got a foo and we've got a bar. And we've also got Baz. Baz is a number. And maybe we've also got a buzz in there as well. And that's a Boolean. Okay, so we're in a world where we've got objects of this form. And let's say we have multiple. And what we want to do is we want to write out a CSV thing that, let's just assume that we want to not bother with a header row. So what we want to do is something pretty basic. So I kind of hack something together. What have I done here? Okay, so I can do something really primitive here where we target an object, we extract the individual values, and then we do a join. Now that's a bit awkward because we don't get any ordering when we extract the values out. So if I were to actually apply this for both rows, just to show you what it looks like. There's no actual guarantee that the ordering of these columns is actually going to line up properly. Now I think in practice it always does, I think, because when we extract values, I'm not actually sure, I should probably check that. Got a method values here. So yeah, the ordering is not guaranteed. When we return the values of an object. So that's the first thing that's a bit dodge. And the way in which you can solve that is with a bit of trickery. I wonder actually if I change the ordering of things as they appear here, does that actually change? Yeah, there you go. That's kind of weird, because it almost looks like it is deterministic ordering. In fact, actually, I bet if I just force it to remap. Yeah, okay, so if I change white space, it remaps, so you can actually see the randomness of how the values stack up here and now before your very eyes. So the way that you can solve this is, let me break this back down again. So the first thing that you do, so imagine we've got our object here. Before we just extract the values into an array, which is where the ordering gets messed up, what you can do is you can extract the key and the value as an object in itself with map each of this. So what map each of this is doing, I can make that a bit clearer with lambda expression. So what this is actually doing is when you call map each on an object, it applies this mapping within the brackets to every key value pair, and what you get as the context is an object that has a key field and a value field. So what you can do is you can map out each value in an object to this object format here just by returning that during the map, and then you can extract the values. And now we're still not ordered, the ordering will change, but what we can do now, because it's an explicit array, is we can sort, and sorting takes another structure where we have a right and a left field. And what you can do is you can specify a custom sorting mapping, which has to return a Boolean indicating whether left is smaller than right. I think that's it anyway. So yeah, now you can see if I mess with the white space, because we've sorted the key value pairs by the key, they'll always be correct. And then what we can do is we can map each of these by the value, and then we have the value, and then we can force them all into strings, and then we can join them by the comma, and that's when we get our CSV row. So now the ordering is deterministic and everybody's happy. But this is a beast. This is massive. So if somebody were to do this themselves, and they don't have a good example to go from in the documentation, because there isn't one, is it likely that somebody's going to reach for this? Like if somebody thinks, oh, I need to compress all these objects into a CSV file, are they just going to go, oh yeah, well I can do a map each, and then I can extract the values, and then I can sort them, and then I can map that, and then I can join that. Obviously, you'd also have to do this for every single element. So let's finish this. So that gives us an array of CSVs, and then we can join that by a new line. And that's what gives us our final CSV with deterministic ordering. So, I mean, look at this. Obviously, this is just one line, so you could neaten this a little bit. But let's do something like this. Break all this out. So one thing per line. But yeah, that doesn't look massively clear. So what I want to do is I want to add in two methods that's going to make this a little bit easier. We can eliminate these two lines if we had something equivalent. So we've got keys and we've got values, which are two different methods that give you an array from an object. Obviously the first gives you all the keys of the object, the second one gives you all the values of the object. So we could have another one called just key values, and what that would do is it would return an array of objects containing the key value pair. And then the other thing I was thinking of doing is we've got this sort which allows you to specify this very specific sorting mapping if you need one, but it would be nice to have something a little bit simpler. So sort right now, if you don't give it a custom mapping to express how to sort the keys by, it still works, but what it'll do is it will compare the values themselves. So if you have an array of strings and you call just sort without an argument, then you will end up with sorted strings. But what I want is I want to be able to sort by and then emit the thing that I want to sort via. So I want to be able to emit a value. So rather than having to have this left.key is less than right.key, I'll just be able to sort by and then the item's key. And then this map each here is converting the value types. So we've got a boolean and we've got a number. It's just converting all of those to a string. So we can't really get away with that. And we also want to extract the value anyway. We don't want to have a CSV of key value pairs compressed. So I don't think we can eliminate that map each here. The other thing is this is a very naive CSV formatter where we wouldn't do any quoting. So if any of these values itself contained quotes or commas or anything like that, then that wouldn't be taken into account here. But I'm not particularly fussed because I'm not actually handing out a proper example to people in the docs or anything. I'm not too interested in solving that for now. It's pretty easy to solve with Bloblang, but it's not really part of this. I just want to add in these two methods to make this particular way of sort of building a custom CSV format easier. But yeah, eventually I think I will probably end up doing this, where you can just give in a structure of some form. Not entirely sure what it would be yet, because I'm seeing various people asking for the ability to write CSV with Bloblang, and they have different use cases. So I'm not entirely sure what the standard format is going to be for feeding something into a CSV format, or whether we can even be dynamic on that as well. All I'm interested in right now is these generally useful methods, which I think will be generally useful. I think they're going to be appreciated by the Bloblang community. So for the first one, the key values method, I'm pretty much just going to copy paste the existing keys method. Key values returns the key value pairs of an object as an array, where each element is an object with a key field and a value field. The order of the resulting array will be random, because it is. And this is in the method category of objects and arrays, because this is object and array stuff. Maybe one day I'll break this out into object stuff and array stuff, but I don't think we've got enough for now. And let's have a little example here. And with this example, we would end up with two objects. The key for the first one is bar, and the value is a number 1. And similar here. Key has value 2. Yeah, I believe that's what we would expect here. That's interesting. I do actually sort these. That's probably to make unit testing easier. Ah, okay. So, oh, that's a bit of a pain. The bug-free stream has a bug in it. Well, a documentation bug. The order of the resulting array will be sorted vertically. Yeah, I almost definitely did that solely because I wanted to make unit testing easier. I'm not entirely sure whether that was a sensible thing to do, but maybe I should do it for this. Yeah, maybe I actually should. Although it's going to be more awkward for to sort this one, because I'm going to be bringing them out into a generic slice of boxed interfaces. So defining a sort for this is going to be a bother. I'll tell you what. I'm going to say the order of the resulting array will be random. And my unit tests, I'm just going to have to sort. Yeah, I think that's going to have to be how we do it. That's a bother, innit? That's a bother, innit? Hang on, since there's an issue there, maybe I should check the values. So the values is not sorted, which makes total sense because we don't know what types the values are. So it's going to be awkward AF to sort those. Okay, this is a series of events that I believe occurred here. I did values first, hence why the documentation is correct, and then I copied this wholesale to make the keys method, and then while I made the keys method I thought, oh, hang on, this is just an array of strings. I can sort this easily for people, and that will make things nice and convenient. That's my theory anyway. Somebody I'm sure can go and dig up the history and find out. But yeah, for now, let's not worry about that. We're not going to sort, so we're going to confirming the docs that the order of the resulting array will be random. And in my unit test, I'm going to have this sort by. Now, this method doesn't exist yet. So if I try and compile and run these examples as unit tests, then it's going to fail. But I'm not too worried about that yet. So let me just recheck on my, yeah, we're fine. This one is not rocket science. He says as he proceeds to introduce new bugs in the bug-free stream. Reminds me of the initial implementation of the map in Python. I think it used to be sorted but documented as unspecified. So you had a wiggle room to change this. Ah, yeah, that's a good point actually. Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I should just not document it as sorted at all. And then the fact that it is incidental. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely the way to go. I mean, I wouldn't blame anybody for relying on the sorted behavior at this point, since I have noticed that a lot of people check the code rather than checking the documentation for things, which makes sense because my code is exceptionally readable. So yeah, I would still make a big point of calling that out as a regression if I was going to take the sort out. But yeah, at least if it's not documented, then it's got wiggle room. But yeah, this one, I'm definitely not going to sort by it. But it would make my CSV example much easier. But I'm not going to. I'm going to resist the temptation. So we're just going to end up with an array of objects with a key and a value field. And we don't expect any dynamic arguments. We don't expect any arguments, in fact. So yeah, that's the first thing. I'm going to add more examples because this doesn't strike me as particularly thorough. Although, no, I don't want to flood my documentation. It's a simple method. 'Tis a simple method. So let's not worry about that. Right, and the other thing is sort. So we want to have a sort by method. In which case, like our previous example, I'm just going to copy paste. Copy paste. Copy all that. And I'll explain how this works in a second, because this is what I would describe to be, I'm not going to put a bar between them. I'm not going to put my little dashes bar, because in my mind these are a pair. These are a pair of methods and they belong together. So I'll worry about the documentation in a second. Right, so sort by. What we do is we've got our target, which is the thing that we're sorting, the thing that we're calling the method upon, which is a dynamic function. We'll execute that when this method gets executed. And then we've got some arguments, and we expect a single argument if there is one, which we express here, 1 or 0 arguments, and we don't automatically resolve dynamic arguments. I'll explain that in a second. And then we're going to have our sort by method is what gets instantiated here. And what we do is we can get rid of this default compare function because that doesn't really apply here. But what we expect if the... Oh, actually, we should get one. We always want one argument, don't we? Yeah, we always want at least one argument. Expect nargs 1. Okay, so we've got a compare function which inside our sort, the first thing that we do is we execute the thing that we are attaching this method to. So we've kind of like composed the target with this, and then if we get a result, we expect it to be an array. If it's not, we return a type error. And what we do is we create a new array with all these same values, and then we call the Golang sort package. It's got the generic slice function for that's my noisy neighbour with his motorbike. Raise your glasses for his motorbike, please. It's a very cool motorbike. Makes some very cool sounds. Right, so what are we doing here? I'm not sure why the heck I'm checking for nil here. I think that might be a remnant of the olden days. I'm going to get rid of that. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's where it gets called. Yeah, okay. Yep, sorry. Yeah, okay, because compare function can fail if it doesn't give us the result that we want. In actual fact, this one in particular won't fail because all we're expecting back is a value to compare. So, it's a doozy. I'll tell you what, I'm going to clear all of this out for now. We are going to get our argument. Okay, the first thing that we do is we check that our argument is a function type, which is basically a query. If you're new to the Bloblang implementation, this is the generic interface that's supported by all the various query types and their children in Bloblang. So if we don't get one as an argument, then we spit an error out, and then we have a compare function, which is what we're actually going to do the sorting by. And what that means is we're going to execute this mapping function with the context being the element itself, because we're executing it for each element. And then sorry, I'm desperately trying to keep my train of thought. Yeah, and then what we're going to do is we're going to extract a value from the map function. It's probably easier if I actually show you what I mean by that. So if we've got item.value, this is the method, this is the target. So whatever results from key underscore values is the target. We've called dot and then the method. So we execute this first. That's this line here. Then what we do is we create a new array, assuming that the result of that method is an array. We create a brand new array, and then we call sort on that. And for every call of sort where we get an index and an index, we extract the value of each element, and that's where this mapping comes in. So what we want to do is we want to express that the thing that we're sorting by is the value field. He's still revving his bike. He is still revving his bike, people. Okay, stop now, everyone. Sigh of relief, collective sigh of relief in the chat, please. Yeah, so what you want to do is you want to escalate the value field, because we don't want to sort by the raw object. We want to sort by the value being emitted. So we don't actually know the type of this. It's just going to be a value type, hopefully. But nonetheless, what I'm describing here is basically the exact same as sort without any arguments. So if you don't specify an argument for sort, then it assumes that what you're providing is an array of value types, and then it sorts by the values. So I can pretty much copy paste this, which is, yeah, so what I'm doing here is for the first index, I switch on the type. If it's a numerical type, then I extract numbers from both it and the other index, and then I do a comparison of those. And if either isn't the right type, then I return an error with the particular index shown in the error message, so that you can look back at your input data and find out why we couldn't do a sort. And likewise for strings. So string and byte type, if you try and sort those, then that's fine. Again, we can just do a basic comparison, but what we do is we pull them out as strings before we do that, just to make our life easy. This could be optimized, but I'm not going to do that right now. But I will break it out, I think, because one day I will want to revisit this and make it a bit smoother. One of the things to consider is we do a bit of type cohesion here in order to make them consistent types to compare. And because this compare function can get called for the same index multiple times, potentially, depending on the sort algorithm, that means we could be doing the type cohesion multiple times. So a more efficient way of doing this would be to break out the values into a comparable type, which actually we could do quite easily, because we already not really actually. Well, whatever, I'll worry about this another time. Don't worry about it right now, okay? Let's call this generic value compare func. How about that? How does that feel? Let's just call it generic value compare. So the compare func starts off as generic value compare. Well, we haven't brought in anything from the environment, so that will exist quite happily as a broken out function, and that means we can use the same thing Oh no, we can't. That's annoying. Hang on, let me think. Because we've got a map function that we need to execute for every single value. And we've got our values array. Yeah, no, this is a bit more complicated than I thought. I'm not going to be able to reuse this. In which case, yeah, I'll tell you what, we're not going to be able to reuse that anyway, so I'm going to keep them as two separate. Two separate things. I'll try and join them again one day, but for now. I mean, what I could do is I could extract, I could pull most of this out, but whatever. Nobody cares. Nobody watching the stream cares about code quality. Right, so the difference now is that, so rather than pulling out the individual values of our values array, we're going to have a left value and a right value to compare. And what those is going to be dictated by the execution of our map function with our context with a new thing. Right, so if you've got a query, right, so say you've got, we have a function, query function provided as a parameter that embodies a query. It embodies a section of Bloblang that we want to execute with a particular context. So the way that we do that is we call execute, which is going to return a generic interface something or an error if there's a mapping error. And what we give it is a context, so a function context. And this contains a whole bunch of stuff, so mappings that we might want to call, variables that have been assigned. There's some legacy stuff for working with batches and other cool things. But yeah, so for the most part, it's just contexts, which is the more important bit. So these contexts provide whatever gets returned with the this keyword, or in the case where we've captured the context into a particular name, these named contexts. So what we do is we mutate the function context that we were provided with a new value as the default context, which might get captured into a name. We don't know. We don't care. And the first one is the left, and the next one is the right index. So now we've got a left value and a right value assigned. We need to do a little bit of error checking, because either of these could fail if the mapping is bad. I'll tell you what, we can condense that down a little bit. And now the rest of this ends up being pretty much the same, except rather than hang on, I need to pay close attention to what I'm doing here, because I could easily fumble this. This is going to be painful for people to watch. You're going to watch me introduce a bug. Right, okay. And that's pretty much it. The compare function is now correct. So yeah, there are a few oddities here. The first being that these map functions get called for each invocation of the comparison function. So I could fix that by caching these somewhere. It would mean another allocation, but that might not necessarily be a bad thing. Maybe that's a good topic for another stream. I'll do a bit of profiling to find out whether that's worth doing for various use cases. But the rest of this, we could actually break that out into a function and share it with the other sort, but I think for now I'll keep them separate. The targets things, you don't really need to worry about this. It's more for, that specifically is for working out which fields a query function references. including all children, so you do an aggregation on the map function. But that's a topic for another day. So, okay, first thing we do was check whether the argument we're provided is a query function. We'll definitely get one because we've added a validation func there. Then we instantiate our comparison function. We've captured that in a closure which captures the map function as well as the that gets provided the function context as well as the values that we're sorting. And yeah, this could be definitely broken out. And then finally, within the actual execution, so this is the bit that actually gets executed when the query happens. I would like to see some profiling deep dive. I'm always curious to learn new techniques. You won't learn any new ones from me. The way that I do profiling is very primitive. Might be interested to see your take on it, actually. But yeah, I use the very bog standard profiling tools and I don't spend a long time doing it. Although actually I quite often will use metrics and stuff emitted from Benthos for doing profiling. It's quite a convenient way of seeing the throughput and things change, and also the memory usage and stuff. But yeah, maybe in the next stream, actually. That might be a fun one, because in this stream I'll add these new Bloblang methods and introduce a few bugs on the way. And then in the next stream I can fix those bugs and then do some profiling before introducing potentially more bugs. Right, so back to the bit what done got executed. Right, so we create the new values type, we append the thing. So this is just going to be the array that was provided to us, and then in order to compare, right, yeah, okay, this is all fine. This bit here looks a bit wonky, but it's because you can't stop slice from continuing. So once this closure has been called once, it's going to get called for all the elements while the sort is happening. So if an error occurs while extracting values for the sort, you would override the original error from a previous sort. So what I did is I just decided, okay, well, we're not going to bother comparing. If an error has already occurred somewhere, then we won't bother continuing to compare. And it means that we'll always return the error from the first index that caused an error to happen. I think that's pretty much it. I think this is all we need for sort by. So I'm just going to do the documentation now, and then yeah, all is good. Attempts to sort the values of an array in increasing order where the values of an array in increasing order. The type of all values must match in order for the ordering to be accurate. Support string and number values. So I can pretty much reuse all of this. I just need to make it clear that it's up to you to define a query function that admits. Attempts to sort the values of an array in increasing order. Emitted by an argument query attempts to sort the elements of an array by a value emitted by an argument query we can go over the increasing order by a value emitted in increasing order, because I think that's probably important, by a value emitted by an argument query. I mean, like, the text for this doesn't have to be super self-explanatory because we've got the examples immediately underneath. We also only need one group of examples because there's only one parameter type and it's non-optional. Okay, so attempts to sort the elements of array in increasing order by a value emitted by an argument query. The type of all values must match in order for the ordering to be accurate. By an argument query applied on each element. Does that make sense? Attempts to sort the elements of an array in increasing order by a value emitted by an argument query applied on each element. Oof, that's a mouthful. To each element. The type of all values must match support string and number values. I'll tell you what, that's fine. Sort by element dot, I don't know, ID. I reckon a common use case for this is you've got an array of objects and each object has a discrete ID. And therefore let's include that in our examples. ID sounds reasonable to me, thanks. I actually feel like one of the main benefits for me of doing the streams is that I get documentation feedback immediately, which helps a lot because I get in my own head. Right, ID BBB, message bar, ID CCC, message, and then I think we'll give that one a Baz. Cheeky little Baz there. And then sorted is the exact same because I stupidly, what am I doing? Stupidly made it sorted right from the beginning. Let's do, yeah, that's fine. BBA CCC A, okay. Yep, that's what I would expect. Do we need any more than that? Do we need any more examples? Maybe? No? Yes? No? I'll tell you what, I'll worry about that after the stream. I'll do that in my own time. I'll take it offline. But yeah, I think I probably will add some more examples to that. So that's it was just those two, wasn't it? It was sort by and key values. Yep. Yep. So that's it then, isn't it? That is it then, isn't it? So I can run that. And testy test. Let me just double check on my key values. The only reason why we didn't execute the test yet was because we were waiting for sort by. So yeah, let's do it. Let's try running all of our tests. This runs absolutely everything. Every test in the Blobiverse. The canonical Blobiverse. Oh. And I did that just to keep you on your toes. just to show you, the tests actually do get run. Let's just double check the rest of it as well. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so that method is working, and also sort by must be working because that didn't kick up a stink. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write an actual config unit test. And this is where I'm just going to play around with my recommendation. Oh, this is interesting. I've already got a CSV example in here. What is this? Okay, this is a CSV parser. A CSV parser. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to show you something really cool about the Blobble server command. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Bloblang server editor to create a mapping that I'm then going to write a unit test for. So I've got a directory test Bloblang where I've got a few unit test definitions for various things, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Benthos Blobble server. So if you check out the flags for this, there is a mapping file field and an input file field, so you can specify a mapping file to bring up in the window. You can also do the same with an input file, and you can also specify W, which is write. So as you're making changes in the editor, it will continuously flush the latest into the files that you pointed at. So that works even if the files don't exist when you first run it. So I'm going to make a new mapping called Csv Formatter .blobble, and then an input file Csv Formatter test.yaml. Now the input isn't a YAML document, and you'll understand why, because I'm going to use the editor to build up my example input document, and then what I'll do is once I've got this working, I'll then adapt that file to become the unit test definition. So it'll already have my example input as part of it. A little bit less copy pastage when I do that, and then I should be able to make some quick edits here. I'll tell you what, because I haven't refreshed the page, this might be broken now. Looks like it is. Looks like it's something like that. Oh, that's a bother, isn't it? Oh, never mind. Oh, it's because I didn't recompile. Oh, okay. Never mind then. Out of interest, I can see if those files were written. And yes, they were. Yeah, okay. I'm just going to install the latest. And rerun my server. Oh, we're getting closer. Right, expected number value, got string, hello world. Filter process method join. Join expected a number value. Method join expected a number value. What's going on there? What? Summit it, right. Something's not right. Element 0, expected number value, got string hello world. My sort. That was a weird error message though. That gave me the wrong context. Let's bring that back. So the context here, failed assignment line 2, expected string value got bool. So that's the element 0 expected string value got bool. That's fine, but I don't like the fact that we don't even know that it's the sort by method. I need to change that. So we're wrapping that. Oh, okay, I know. So I've got I can't. Sorry, I'm not being very expressive. So to get the context for various errors now, how can I demo this? Root equals this dot keys. Okay, so you can see we've got this type error, expected object value got array, and then we've got a bit of context here from field this. So this is a relatively new thing in Bloblang. I put this out in the last release because the error messages were historically pretty bad and not giving you a lot of information about what was going on in certain scenarios. So yeah, now we've got this extra context that gets added to things, and the way that works is you start off with a type error from somewhere within the query, and then as the error gets propagated, the first thing to know a good valid context to assign to it attaches it. So there could be a method, for example. What's a good one for this? So I've expanded the context, so I've added a little map each method. So now when keys fails, the error message is actually the same, but the context is different. So now it tells you it's from method map each. So at least you know roughly what's going on. You know that we expected an object value, which is what we do expect when we call keys on something, but we got an array from method map each. So that's why I'm freaking out now. Well, not freaking out, but just I ought to fix this, because we've got our sort by method is failing because element 0, we expected a number value and we got string hello world. What that obviously means is we're trying to sort by the values, so hello world will sort against 110, but in actual fact we wanted to do keys here. But in a world where you were trying to compare the values, then that error message isn't going to be great. It's just telling you element 0. It's not telling you element 0 while we were trying to apply sort by. But I'll tell you what, I'm gonna soldier on. With that in mind, I'll make a note to go back, because basically there's no reason why I can't add the context here. It's just a question of how I'm gonna orchestrate that. And I'm a bit miffed that it's not happening automatically there. Anyway, so item.key, and then we map each. So we coerce all the values into strings, and that's what we get back, and then we join it by comma. And let's go back to the original full CSV example here. And if I misspell with a white space and force it to redo, then everything's good still. Okay, I think that's fine for now. An interesting one is, do we want to include a header row? Because obviously that's going to be the case with most CSV dumps that people make. They're going to want to include it, especially given that we're sorting the rows. We would need to have a generated header row in order for the output to be parsable generally. So what would be the best way of doing that, I hear you ask? Well, we can get a header row by doing basically the same thing, but we just pull the first row. So we get the first element, we extract the keys, and then we sort that. And because that's the same sort as sorting by the key here, it means that the ordering will be consistent. Now this relies heavily on the fact that each object has the exact same keys. There are no keys missing. We can expand. We probably should expand. If I was going to make this an official example of how to format CSV, what I would probably do is I would expand this mapping here so that we guarantee we get every single key. Basically, we would use the first row as our reference for which keys we expect in each object, and then when we do when we extract our key values, we would then explicitly follow the keys from the first row. Can't really be bothered to do that here, to be frank, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's definitely something that I would need to do if I was going to make this some general purpose, grab it off the shelf example solution. But yeah, let's not worry about that yet. So yeah, what we want to do is we want to prepend the header row here. So I've extracted it into a variable, joined it, and what I can do is I can can you do it like a hash table of keys and then sort them when outputting the header? Yeah, I think it would. Yeah, I'm trying to think, because you want to express it in a really simple way that it's going to be. Did I just lose the stream? Mihai, did I just get cut off? That's interesting. I think that's my first connectivity problem thus far. Oh, okay. It might have just been a second. I got a little alert on my screen. Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna crack on with this. Otherwise, I'm gonna fall asleep. So we've got a header row. We've joined that. These are already strings, so we don't need to coerce them. So the real basic way of doing this would be to just do that. Bit of string concatenation. And then you get your header row and you get your data. Yeah, so I think this is kind of as far as I've gotten right now in terms of like a generic example. But yeah, I still feel like eventually there's going to have to be a format CSV or CSV formatter method. It's just a question of which particular input format are we going to aim for. Because this is just one. Another use case, for example, was each of these objects, rather than the rows being an array of objects, each individual object was a separate message of a batch. And obviously you can compress the batch with something like you could do this from all, for example. Actually, no, sorry, it'd be JSON from all. But yeah, I originally solved that as kind of like a streamed solution, assuming that the data was going to be huge, so you wouldn't be able to fit. Because I mean, again, this example assumes as well that you can fit the entire CSV file in one message. But you know, this CSV file might be bigger than your available RAM, so I don't want to put out like a generic, here's the way to do CSV writing in Bloblang, and it turns out to be brittle in that regard. But there's nothing stopping me from giving examples out of like, hey, this is how you might do it. This, you know, here's a mapping I prepared earlier, which is how you could consider doing it if one was so inclined. But yeah, I think that's good for now. Let's have a look at the files, what got written out. So we've now got CSV formatted test, CSV formatted blobble. I want this to stop writing over those files because I'm happy with what they are now, so I'm going to shut down the web server. And now I'm going to write some unit tests. Now this will be fun because I'm going to have to try and remember the test spec. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm just going to bring up the docs. Unit testing. Writing a unit test. Let's do a little bit of copy paste. Right. Let's call this consistent objects. And we don't have target processors, we have a target mapping, which is CSV formatter.blobble. So this path is relative to the test definition, which makes it a little bit easier to keep all these things together. We don't need a custom environment, and we won't for any of these tests, so I can get rid of that. And then we've got an input batch of one message, which we are going to inject like so. And then our output, okay, it's still up, that's good. The output that we expect is as follows. I can quickly run that. It's giving me an error. Let's just give this a look over. This is probably a white space thing. I suspect, it'd be nice if this was a bit clearer, but I suspect the reason why this is kicking up a fuss is because we're actually expecting a new line at the end. I can't remember how to do that with YAML. That's a bit of a pain, isn't it? So I wonder if I can just get that with... Let's try it. Whoa! You broke my test. It was something like that. Okay, right. We're getting close. So this basically eliminates all the new lines. I wonder if we can make them explicit, maybe? No. Darn you, YAML. Life is pain and suffering. Expected, received. Oh, they look darn similar, don't they? They look gosh darn similar. Yeah, this is just a white space thing. YAML string. Here we go, we're Googling YAML on the stream. That's a folded block. Okay. Where string contains line breaks, you can use literal style indicated by pipe. To indicate that the string will span several lines. In literals, new lines are preserved. Alternatively, with the full style. So I mean, this is obviously it, but I'm just not sure how we get a new line at the end. I mean, it still beats most formats in that at least you can have something. Oh. Oh. Well, that did it, I think. So how does that work? Oh, that's really interesting. So does that mean... What? Whoa! What? What? Was that the problem? It's because we did have a new line in the expected, but we were not getting a new line in the actual. Oh, that's... So I bet if I put in... I don't know, another predicate or something, then it would have been fine. Yeah, no, it doesn't. So I bet if I were to just have another field down here, whatever, then yeah, it would all be good. Well, anyway, that solves it. I can have as many new lines as I want. Thank you to the chat for assisting me on that one. And now let's put in a few let's put in one other test. We'll call this one empty, because we won't have any data. Now this will break the mapping. Yeah, okay, so we got an error and the content mismatch. I wonder if we still get, I wonder if I made it so the test still fails. Huh. That's interesting. Oh. Oh my. No, 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 please, no, no. Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting one. So if you've got expected content on the output and it doesn't match, then it'll show you the error if there is one present. Assuming that this explains why the content doesn't match and it's important information. But obviously if you've made it so that the expected content out does match, then it's all good, innit? So good, innit? As far as the test is concerned. Because you expected it not to work. Okay, yeah, so I'll leave that. Obviously that's not desired behavior. If you feed in an empty array and you want it to... In fact, actually, I'll tell you what, let's update this mapping so that it doesn't break. What would we expect if we have an empty array and we formatted it as CSV? What would we expect? Because you don't know. No, I'll tell you what, the only thing that you could possibly logically expect is an error to occur, so let's do that. I wonder if there's a test predicate for confirming that an error occurred. Do I even have that? I'll tell you what. Yeah, you can. You can do a predicate because you can execute a Bloblang predicate. Yeah. Hey, that's cool. I like that. So you can do something like this. Your test predicate is a Bloblang expression that checks the error on the message. Oh, look at that. That's cool. I like that. I've never actually used the Bloblang predicate in any of my actual testing, so that was exciting. Okay, right. So, what have we achieved today? What have we done? New methods, sort by, and key values added to Bloblang. We didn't actually fix a real bug. There was only that documentation malarkey. Yeah, all we did was change the documentation. So, I'm just going to run the tests one more time. The test salute. And look at that, they passed. And now we're going to generate the documentation. And what's that? The documentation for Bloblang methods has changed. And these are the changes. And that looks good to me. I'm just going to run the documentation site and just see how that's looking. It does take a while when you're building it. Right, what are we interested in? We're interested in Bloblang methods, and we've got some new stuff. The first one is key values. Returns the key value pairs of an object as an array where each element is an object with a key field and a value field. The order of the resulting array will be random. Thank you. Look at that. It's a cool little example there. And then the other one was sort by. Attempts to sort the elements of an array in increasing order by a value emitted by an argument query applied to each element. The type of all values must match in order for the ordering to be accurate. Supports string and number values. That is some strong literature there. Powerful stuff. I'm happy with that. The only thing I might do is there's probably some existing examples and things that could be made a bit simpler with these new methods, but I will deal with those in my own time. Now let's come up with a commit message. I wonder how an inaccurate sorting would look like. Does it not simply error out? That's a really good point. That is a really good point. It does error out. It does error out. Are you going to make me go and do the docs again? Ah. In order for the ordering to succeed. Some people are never satisfied. Some people just don't want you to go and watch Netflix. There are people on this earth. Right, shall we generate the website again? No. I'm done. That is it. Documentation is flawless now. There are no bugs. We did kind of hit a bug, but it was just a documentation bug, so it's not a real bug. So I am going to officially declare this as a bug-free stream. And any functionality in the future that was introduced during the stream that is found to be a bug, I think I'm gonna fight to redefine what a bug is for the sake of this stream. I'm going to defend the stream to the death for being a bug-free stream. If you want to contest that, please give me your name and address and tell me where you'll be between the hours of 3 and 5 in the afternoon, and then we'll see if this wasn't a bug-free stream. I'm going to commit. Right, so let's come up with a commit message together as a group. Added key values and sort by methods to Bloblang. Can we fit 2 Bloblang? Yes, I think we can. Right, who wants to spend an hour debating whether it should be added or whether it should be add? Any opinions in the chat before I save this? Your options are add or added. And if you suggest anything else, I'm done. Okay, it's added then. It's added. And I'm going to push that immediately so that we can't change it. And right, we're finished. We're done. That's it. It's over. It is fini. I'm not going to wait for the CI. I'm going to trust that it's all going to pass. There are some flaky tests, but I don't think it's going to be particularly exciting to watch that for 20 minutes. So I think I'm going to finish the stream there. So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you everybody for joining, and for all the people who engaged in the chat. Thank you very much for that. And it's definitely been useful, particularly today. I just want to say it's been a fantastic journey. I hope this never ends. I know that software isn't real. I know that programming is just made up. And I just hope that we can keep this going for a little bit longer before we as a society realise that this is not worthy of our time and energy. Let's keep this lie moving, and hopefully we can get a few more years out of it, and hopefully we can milk the open source cow a little bit longer as well, with the pretense of open source being a meaningful thing, a worthy endeavour. And yeah, I just appreciate everybody continuing the lie, and just keep that going, keep it alive. Peace.